here with Doug Book, owner of Pavedrain LLC. Doug, when I see Pavedrain LLC and what you guys are doing, I'm very excited to spend this time with you and have the opportunity to talk for a little bit.
Thank you, Frank.
So why don't you give us a little bit of a background on Pavedrain?
Well, I started the company in August of 2008. And for those of you that remember what happened in late 2008, it was not the best of times to start up a company, especially a startup company in the environmental world. And we somehow persevered through that. The nice thing about when you're starting up a company at that time, there was no money going around, but you had time and people, because people were really struggling with everything. We were very fortunate to get partnered up with a company called Ernest Mayer Corp, MCO. Their president CEO, Brendan Quinn, took a liking to what we were doing, something different, innovative. It wasn't just your everyday product. They quickly became a licensee and an investor. And since they were also a manufacturer of block materials, masonry materials, they allowed us a lot of machine time at a very strategic price of not charging us anything as part of R&D to really debug the product and figure out just what we were up against. You come up with an idea on paper, run it through a block machine, might not be everything might not come to fruition just as you had envisioned. Had to make some tweaks. We bought a mold for about $50,000 was our first mold, and it was scrapped. Just out of sheer number of changes we had to make to it, things we had to do. We scrapped that one out. Once we really figured we got it, then we bought another one, and we started making manufacturing product around the country. And some of our first jobs were out in the East Coast. In our first official job was in Bladensburg, Maryland, at the City Hall, still in use today. I don't think they've even ever maintained it. We'd love to know just how many gallons of water they have infiltrated and captured on that single project. We've sold a few franchises around the country. Most of our marketing dollars have gone through distribution. And our distribution partners around the country typically are in the stormwater field, but also in the geotextile, geosynthetic world. The geotextile is a very important component of the Pavedrain system, where we wrap the bottom of it with a geotextile. GeoGrid goes on top, Pavedrain on top of that, selling as a package, if you will, around the country.
So what motivates you? You found the company, obviously started in 08, so you've been doing this a little while. So what's your motivators every day?
I'm an environmentalist. I'm a minimalist. I'm a conservative. I love everything about what we are trying to do for Mother Nature. I've never really quite grasped the civil engineering thought process of taking stormwater where it falls and piping it and running it 10, 15, 20, 30 miles. Growing up, I grew up on a farm in eastern Iowa, and water's important. Aquifers are important. Getting the water where it lands, managing water, managing land is critical to our survivability and what we're doing. I have been a big fan of recharging our aquifers since I came up with this. It was a concept that kind of scared me one year when I was growing up and our well went dry. When you're on the farm and your well goes dry, you don't have any water, it sticks with you. Yep. And left quite the impression on me. And really what that was caused by was just lack of rain. What our wells and aquifers are drying up from is lack of thought. And what we've been doing is sealing them off. Every time you put a roof up, a road, a parking lot, anything like that, you are sealing off that area of land that when rain falls could be working its way back down into our aquifers. It's not happening. We're piping it and moving it and taking it to places that might not be intended for. And so my motivation is get up. Our product helps the environment. The more we sell, the better we do. We've infiltrated millions and millions and millions of gallons of water back down into the ground. So we're trying to do our part. We'd like to do a lot more.
Great. So on the Pavedrain website, you say the Pavedrain system is the most environmentally friendly, cost-effective, and maintainable permeable system on the market. A lot of words. Talk about
A lot
that.
of mouthful. Yeah, it's a mouthful. It does a lot of things. Most pavements really only do one thing. They're a transportation surface. Traditional asphalt, traditional concrete, it really is a transportation surface, whether it be vehicular or water. That's all it does.
Mhm.
Paved drain does a little bit more than that. You can drive on it. The water that hits it can go back down into the ground, and you can also heat it. We can melt snow, minimize your salt usage, minimize ice damage, minimize your liability with that. The uh, other thing that when we talk about anything in the green infrastructure world, you have to talk about maintenance. Maintenance has been the Achilles heel of green infrastructure almost since the day it came out. Nobody wants to talk maintenance. Nobody wants to even address maintenance. When I got into this, about a year in, I realized we have to talk about maintenance. We have to address it. We have to be out in front of it. We can't run away from it. We can't tuck our tail in and say we can't do this. We have talked about maintenance and the ability to maintain paved drain since day one. Most other permeable systems, when they came out, previous concrete, asphalt, the permeable paver world, they were all what we literally call first generation. What I did is I took a look at some of the paver world and went, I think I got a better idea. And my idea was to instead of making the pavers smaller, I made a big block. And instead of needing and requiring rock between the joints of every paver, I just interlocked it against one another, therefore leaving those joints open. I really call it pre-clogging. If you put the rock between those joints, you're pre-clogging it. What we did is left it open, therefore leaving massive amounts of water to get into it very quickly. But the other benefit of it is when you need to do maintenance, and it's going to fill up with debris, get it. We acknowledge it, talk about it. You are able to suck that debris out, vacuum it out, clean it out, if you will. Now you're done. You don't have to go back in and rebuy that rock to reinstall it, reclog it, all of those steps and expenses that goes with it. So when we talk about that, it's a system sell, and it's a system that we talk about to do that.
So with that, and really certainly great impact, obviously on the environment, but give us an example of a customer and the kind of benefits that that customer realized from paved drain.
Great question. Our customer base is kind of anybody that owns land, and that's a big customer base, and we haven't realized the numbers we want yet. But what's starting to happen, and everything in the civil engineering world just takes a long time in terms of your cycle and sales cycle and what goes on. But in terms of a customer that's realized a benefit, we have multiple examples, but one of them I'm going to focus on is a town in Wisconsin, south of Milwaukee, Cudahy, Wisconsin, that was trying to meet MS4 demands, municipal separate stormwater demands for their stormwater runoff. And different consultants came in and estimated it was going to cost them tens of millions of dollars to get into compliance. Well, these municipalities just don't have that type of money. And what the models that came out showed the models of being this massive network of stuff that was on to do. Well, if you're selling engineering services, I would venture to say you want to sell a lot of engineering services. And we're in that engineering world as well. And what we started doing was after project had gone in around the country, we were being told that we were taking on way more water than what the model said we could handle, but we didn't have proof of that. So what we did in Cudahy, Wisconsin, is we went in and we installed a paved drain system. It was only about 1,000 square foot on an alleyway project, but we installed a product called the Infiltracker, and we call it paved drain powered by P4's Infiltracker. It's P4 Infrastructure is the company name. And we popped out a couple of paved drain blocks, drilled a hole down into that open graded aggregate, inserted a float valve, stainless steel float valve down into it, rehooked it all up, and that sends signals into the internet onto a monitor on top of a building nearby that sends a signal to the desktop to prove and show just how much water we are capturing. But what we found out is these models were comically, if not hilariously, wrong. We were taking on exponentially 10, 12 times more water than what the models were showing. Well, if somebody's telling you that it's going to take you $10 million to meet this stormwater regulation in this block, and you are off by a factor of 10, and you can build it for $1 million, what do you think? Who do you think is going to win from that? Well, that's the type of math we're looking at. Now this municipality is going, well, wait a minute. We could build and fix all of our stormwater problems for, instead of 100 million, we could build it for 10 million. Well, that we can do. And we can do that in the next 2 to 3 years.
Sure.
And we can be in compliance, and we can document it and prove that we have done it. Some big visualizations there and realizations that a municipality doesn't have to be saddled and strapped with tremendous amount of potential debt to be in compliance. And just think about what we're doing with all that water. We're getting it back down in the ground.
Right.
Mother Nature, she's pretty good at treating this water. She's been at it a couple days, you know, rather than piping it somewhere and treating it and that expense of all of that. We don't have to do that. She's pretty efficient. So very, very compelling argument and story that we're making. And I think it's got some people a little nervous because of it is a very disruptive technology.
Really? So you're beginning to establish a relationship with Global Waterworks. There's a lot of organizations out there. What attracts you to Global Waterworks?
Need to get the word out. You guys got great numbers. You guys got good people, a lot of people on your website. When you start scrolling through the number of people that are on that, as a business owner and a person that needs to contact a lot of people, we need, this is where we need to go. We need stuff like this. We need a bigger reach than what can be done in just print advertising. And they say print is dead, and I read about it in the paper, but it is old. It's static. You can't. It's tough to change. You know, everything that you do like that. And I like to be innovative. I like to forward think, and this fits that bill for us.
Great. So back to Pavedrain. Looking out 12 to 18 months, what does that look like to you for the company?
We're coming out of obviously a pretty rough time in the construction world. Our supply chains all across the country have been messed with.
Yeah.
We've got some really strong markets, some big projects that were shelved in 2020 and 2021. A lot of them are going to hit in 2022. So we're really looking for a big jump in the next 12 to 18 months. Our strongest markets are in the Southeast, Florida, South Carolina. Georgia's come along, are really strong. Maryland's always been a good market for us. The Midwest, and we're talking Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska, Kansas, Indiana, spectacular. Kentucky comes and goes. Michigan comes and goes, and Wisconsin tends to come and go too. Ohio's coming in there. All of those states kind of ebb and flow almost on an every other year type of thing for us. So the West, we've had some good stuff out there, but the permitting process in the West is rather challenging. They take some time to get through the process out there. So we'll leave it at that.
Well, Doug, this has been great, and I'm certainly continue to learn a lot from you and about Pavedrain, and look forward to working with you. And as we go forward, you and Pavedrain and Global Waterworks. Right back at you. Really appreciate it, Frank. You're doing a great job. Take care.